Hello, I'm Raymond and this is Nightline, news making the headlines. No travel ban during Aidilfitri, says Prime Minister. And Johor Speaker hands over Government Gazette on dissolution of State Assembly to Election Commission. Good morning. The government has assured that there will be no Movement Control Order (MCO) enforced and travel restrictions during Aidilfitri this year. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said the public must not make any speculations or worry about not being able to travel home to celebrate the festival this year. According to Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri, the economic and social sectors as well as interstate travel had been allowed to return to normal. However, in the event there was an increase in cases in certain localities, the Enhanced Movement Control Order (EMCO) targeted approach would be used.
Dah ada orang membuat spekulasi macam-macam. Nak tutup ekonomi, tak betul tu. And then konon-kononnya raya nanti tak boleh balik. Kalau kampung saya kes meningkat, saya tutup kampung saya tak boleh balik lah. Tapi orang lain boleh balik, KP boleh balik lah kampung dia. Pasal tak, kampung dia tak kena tutup. Jadi don't worry, kita akan pastikan perkara ini tidak akan berlaku.
Following the spread of COVID-19 cases since the beginning of 2020, the government has implemented MCO as well as interstate and inter-district travel restrictions, including during festive seasons for 2 consecutive years. Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri said the government is currently monitoring the increase in COVID-19 cases nationwide. However, to curb COVID-19 transmission, he urged the public to continue adhering to the Standard Operating Procedures (SOP) set by authorities to prevent a spike in new cases. Meanwhile, the proposed Standard Operating Procedure (SOP) for the Johor State election will be tabled in a special session of the National Security Council (NSC). Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri stated that the meeting will also be attended by representatives of political parties from the opposition bloc. According to the Prime Minister, the priority is to prevent an increase in COVID-19 positive cases due to the Johor polls. This after taking into account the number of new infections, which has reached 4,000 cases over the past few days.
Untuk SOP nanti Kementerian Kesihatan lah yang akan menentukan. Saya pun, walaupun saya dah tak lead lagi dari segi jawatan kuasa COVID ni, tapi saya masih lagi boleh memanggil mesyuarat sidang khas MKN ni. Saya minta Kementerian Kesihatan come out dengan cadangan untuk saya bawa dalam sidang khas MKN yang juga diwakili oleh parti pembangkang. Jadi kita akan putuskan. Tapi membimbangkan bila saya tengok result semalam dah naik menjadi 4,000 lebih dah COVID ni. Ya, jadi COVID ni perlu dibendung.
The Prime Minister also said it was too early to say that the Johor State election would be a benchmark for the next 15th General Election, GE15. However, Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri said he will monitor the development. On Saturday, the Sultan of Johor, Sultan Ibrahim Sultan Iskandar, had consented to the dissolution of the State Legislative Assembly, paving the way for the state election. The Johor State Assembly has officially been dissolved as of January 22nd, after its Speaker, Suhaizan Khaiyat, announced the Government Gazette on the matter on Sunday. The government gazette was also officially handed over to the Election Commission EC for follow-up proceedings to hold the state election, which must take place within 60 days to enable a new state government to be formed.
Menerima surat pemakluman daripada Setiausaha Kajian Negeri Datuk Haji Azmi Rohani pada pagi tadi jam 10 pagi memaklumkan tentang pemasyhuran pemasuhan Dewan Negeri Johor yang ke-14 pada 22 Januari 2022 pada hari semalam. Jadi saya telah terima pada pagi tadi dan pemasyhuran ini telah disiarkan dalam JBU nombor 8 tambahan nombor 3 66 nombor 3 bertarikh 22 Januari 2022. Maknanya pemasyhuran ini telah diwartakan.
Suhaizan told this to reporters at his office at the Sultan Ismail building in Kota Iskandar, Johor Bahru. He also said he will continue carrying out his task until the new state government is formed and the appointment of a new State Assembly Speaker is made. Earlier, Suhaizan handed over the Johor State Assembly Dissolution Proclamation Gazette to the State EC Director, Nor Nikman Jaimon. Nor Nikman said the State EC will consult its headquarters before making preparations, including a special meeting to discuss the 15th Johor state election and determine the polling date. Johor Barisan Nasional (BN) is considering the possibility of contesting the upcoming state election on its own, as it was confident of winning 2/3 of the 56 contested state seats. Its chairman, Datuk Hasni Mohamad, said the decision to contest without the cooperation of any other party outside the coalition, however, was subject to approval from the BN Supreme Council.
Kalau perkara kerjasama parti dalam menghadapi pilihan raya ni akan ditentukan oleh pucuk pimpinan di peringkat pusat. Jadi sebagai parti di peringkat negeri, kita telah pun mencadangkan untuk bergerak secara Barisan Nasional atau bersendirian.
Datuk Hasni, who is also Johor Menteri Besar, added that the coalition will contest all 56 seats in the polls. On Johor being the first election for 18-year-old voters, Datuk Hasni said they did not underestimate the voting power of youth in the state election and will have a strategy to obtain their support. The state election will witness over 150,000 voters aged 18 to 20, voting for the first time in the country's history. In another development, Johor Pakatan Harapan PH remained firm that now is not the right time to hold a state election, as the public is still facing issues such as the COVID-19 pandemic, economic problems and floods. In a joint statement on Sunday, Johor PH, as the largest opposition bloc in the State Assembly, had given its cooperation to the state government so that its administration could run smoothly. Despite this, it said Johor PH will take all necessary measures in preparation for the upcoming Johor state election. On Saturday, Johor Menteri Besar Datuk Sri Hasni Mohamad said Barisan Nasional (BN) needed a fresh mandate to continue programs for the people's interests. He also pointed out that it was not appropriate for the state government to be in a position where it operates on the opposition's goodwill. The Johor government found itself with a mere one-seat majority, with 28 seats compared to the 27 seats held by the opposition bloc following the death of Kempas State Assemblyman Datuk Osman Sapian, who is also the former Menteri Besar on December 21st. Over in Perak, Menteri Besar Datuk Sri Sarani Mohamad said there is no necessity to dissolve the Perak State Assembly, as the government has strong support, including from the opposition. He added that the political situation in the state was different from that in Johor, as its state assembly had a very slim majority.
In Perak tak ada. Perak sekarang ini saya ada sokongan yang kuat daripada parti-parti yang mendukung kerajaan dan juga mendapat sokongan kuat daripada pembangkang. So tak ada sebab untuk kita membubarkan. Masa masih ada. Bagilah peluang masa sehingga tempoh ni untuk kita bersama-sama membangunkan negeri ini.
He said this to the media after officiating the netball court at the Aulong Sports Arena in Taiping on Sunday. In the 59-seat State Assembly, the Perak government currently has the support from 36 assemblymen, namely 25 from BN, Bersatu with 4, PAS 3, Parti Bangsa Malaysia 3, and Independent with 1 seat. A total of 30 seats are needed to secure a slim majority. Family members of Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad have had the opportunity to interact with the former Prime Minister, who is undergoing treatment at the National Heart Institute IJN. His daughter, Datin Paduka Marina Mahathir, said this in a statement on Sunday. Speaking on behalf of her mother, Tun Dr. Siti Hasmah Muhammad Ali, she said the family thanked everyone in Malaysia and abroad who organized prayers and Yasin recitals for the former Prime Minister's recovery, and also those from other faiths for their well wishes and prayers. Dato Paduka Marina also urged the public to ignore rumors spread by unverified sources, adding that the IJN and the family will issue statements from time to time. On Saturday, she said in a statement, Tun Dr. Mahathir was in stable condition and responding well to treatment after his readmission to the IJN following an elective procedure that he underwent on January 8th. Yang di-Pertuan Agong Al-Sultan Abdullah Riayatuddin Al-Mustafa Billah Shah is undergoing a health checkup and follow-up treatment for a few days since Saturday at the Royal Ward of the National Heart Institute IJN. Comptroller of the Royal Household for Istana Negara, Dato Indra Ahmad Fadil Shamsuddin, said this was related to an intervention treatment on the King's knee and ankle joints, which he underwent at the healthcare facility on September 24th last year. In a statement on Sunday, Dato Indra Ahmad Fadil said the intervention was done after magnetic resonance imaging MRI scan showed injuries to Al-Sultan Abdullah's knee and ankle joints while partaking in sports. He also said that this follow-up treatment was delayed from that date due to the implementation of COVID-19 Standard Operating Procedures (SOP) in public hospitals, including IJN. At the same time, he added that the King also agreed to undergo a respiratory examination at IJN. Dato Indra Ahmad Fadil pointed out that the King's health was generally good and not worrying, and that His Majesty was scheduled to return to Istana Negara soon after undergoing the follow-up treatment. He called on the public to pray for Al-Sultan Abdullah to be granted quick recovery and lasting health. Meanwhile, a motorcade bearing Raja Permaisuri Agong, Tunku Aziza Amina Maimuna Iskandaria, and Regent of Pahang, Tunku Hassanal Ibrahim Alam Shah Al-Sultan Abdullah, were spotted earlier arriving separately at IJN. After the break, court to decide Monday if Zahid must enter defence. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Nightline. The delay in distribution of flood aid, especially involving the purchase of electrical goods amounting to 500 ringgit and aid of 2,500 ringgit to replace damaged items, was due to the eligibility verification process. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said he had instructed all parties to expedite the process so that it would not be as late as during the previous floods, which could take up to 6 months.
Jadi sebab itulah kita nak detail. Yang duduk rumah flat, dia boleh dapat juga untuk RM1,000 repair kereta. Sebab walaupun dia duduk tingkat 10, kereta dia duduk bawah ke mana atas rumah. Jadi, yang itu kita kena bagi. Jadi dia kadang-kadang ada rumit sikit. Jadi sebab itulah memakan masa sikit.
Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri said this when visiting flood victims in Bera, Pahang on Sunday. He explained that if possible, he wanted to give the assistance to all flood victims as soon as possible. But this involves government money that has to go through audits and other steps. During the visit, the Prime Minister also presented donations to 80 representatives of flood victims from Kampung Guai, Kampung Charuk Puting and Kampung Batu Bor. The decision on whether Datuk Seri Ahmad Zahid Hamidi will be acquitted or ordered to enter his defence on 47 criminal breach of trust, CBT corruption and money laundering charges involving Yayasan Akal Budi funds will be known on Monday. Kuala Lumpur High Court Judge Datuk Colin Lawrence Sequeira is scheduled to deliver his decision at the end of the prosecution's case at 9:30 a.m. If the High Court decides that there is a prima facie case against Datuk Seri Ahmad Zahid, then the former Deputy Prime Minister will be called to enter his defence. But if the judge decides otherwise, he will be acquitted and discharged. Datuk Seri Ahmad Zahid, who is also UMNO President, had pleaded not guilty to 12 CBT charges, 8 counts of bribery and 27 for money laundering, involving tens of millions of ringgit belonging to Yayasan Akal Budi. The trial began on November 18th, 2019. The hearing for submissions from both the prosecution and the defence lasted 24 days since September 6 last year. The Bagan Datuk Member of Parliament also faces 40 charges at the Shah Alam Sessions Court of having accepted bribes from a company over the overseas visa system, which brought the total charges against him to 87. Police have crippled an online fraud syndicate with the arrest of 8 men and a woman in an operation in Kedah and Pulau Pinang last Thursday. Kedah Police Chief Commissioner Wan Hassan Wan Ahmad said all the suspects, aged between 19 and 51, were nabbed in 4 simultaneous raids at 1:15 p.m.
So, dalam serbuan ini, kita telah berjaya merampas 2 komputer riba, 21 telefon bimbit pelbagai jenama, 3 kenderaan pelbagai jenama, 18 buah buku catatan, 4 buku pelbagai dokumen, 3 kad kredit, ATM, pelbagai bank dan wang tunai dalam RM14,100.
Preliminary investigations found that they have been involved with the activity since last year by impersonating officials from government agencies, including the Inland Revenue Board. Authorities are tracking down 2 more men, aged 38 and 41, who are believed to be involved in the case. All those detained have been remanded until Tuesday for investigations under the Penal Code for cheating. In Malaysia, soaring prices of food and goods have been dominating the headlines in recent weeks, and consumer groups warned that the prices will likely increase again after the upcoming Chinese New Year festive season due to price manipulation by unscrupulous middlemen. As the issue of increasing prices of goods have been and will continue to be at the forefront of the national conversation, what measures can be taken to address it to ensure the people will not be burdened by the issue? Alif Yunus reports.
Kita kalau dulu dengan RM50 kita boleh beli banyak benda macam ikan, ayam, sotong pun kita boleh dapat. Tapi sekarang dengan RM50 kita boleh hanya mampu beli ikan dengan ayam. Itu pun belum tentu duit tu ada lebih lagi untuk beli barang seterusnya dengan minyak ke bawang ke. Jadi harga barang ni sangat menekan untuk kami yang golongan B40.
Kesan sekarang memang terjejas lah. Sebab orang pun kurang sekarang ni. Harga naik melambung. Dia naik, dia tak turun. Dia macam tu. Dia harga pun tak konsisten sekarang ni. Lepas tu banyak orang lari lah.
With prices of goods already rising pre-COVID, the pandemic had further intensified the trend. It has been reported that prices of fresh produce such as green vegetables have surged more than 200%, while some staples, including chicken and eggs, are also expensive. Some may argue that high food prices affects everyone. However, this situation has far greater impact on middle and low income households, especially the poor, as they are reliant on stagnant low wages. Federation of Malaysian Consumers Association, FOMCA Chief Executive Officer Datuk Paul Selvaraj, in a recent article claimed that the monopolistic practices in the food supply chain by certain quarters had led to the inflated price. To prevent the prices of goods from rising, Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs Minister Datuk Seri Alexander Nantalinggi announced an extension of the Keluarga Malaysia Maximum Price Control Scheme (SHMKM), which was supposed to end on December 31st to February 4th. He also said that his ministry is looking for the best mechanism, together with the Agriculture and Food Industry Ministry, to stabilise retail prices of food. Meanwhile, economist Manokara Moten said the government is likely to manage the situation through non-monetary measures such as price ceiling on essential items and heavy monitoring on market manipulation.
If you ask me, government actions in decreasing the prices of goods in this country, I consider it is quite timely, as we think that the price pressures need to be stabilized in the near term. So this is supposed to help the most vulnerable communities, especially in the short term. I look at it, at least the B40 category.
He also proposed the Federal Agricultural Marketing Authority (FAMA) to play a major role by intervening and facilitating the importation of the food supply chain to constrain market manipulation.
The rising prices of goods trend is likely to continue in 2022, at least in the first half of the year. As the country's economy is still in the early stages of recovery, it is crucial for the policymakers to design appropriate policies to curb inflation, especially to keep the prices low for the goods and food items for the interest of the people. Alif Yunus, TV3.
COVID-19 outbreak forces Jessica Arden to scrap wedding plans. This and more when Nightline returns. Thanks for staying with us. On to the foreign front now. In Thailand, police have arrested a 23-year-old man responsible for a brutal knife attack that killed a 49-year-old Briton while injuring another in Muang district in Kanchanaburi. According to police, the victim was found lying face down in a pool of blood with knife wounds to his neck near a marble bench in front of his rented house. Another British man, 55, suffered serious injuries and is being treated at a nearby hospital. A sickle and a pair of slippers believed to belong to a male attacker were found at the scene. Preliminary investigation revealed that the suspect, identified as Prasut Tiptep, attacked the two men with a rice sickle for drinking and playing music loudly. He was arrested just across the street from the house that had been rented by the British men and was said to be hiding in a room that belonged to a relative. The suspect was believed to have a history of mental health issues. New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern has cancelled her wedding as the nation is set to be placed under the highest level of COVID restrictions after a cluster of 9 cases of the COVID-19 Omicron variant were detected. Speaking to reporters, Ardern said the so-called red setting of the country's pandemic response includes heightened measures such as required mask wearing and limits on gatherings. Ardern also stressed that the red is not lockdown, noting that businesses can remain open and people can still visit family and friends and move freely around the country. New Zealand had been among the few remaining countries to have avoided any outbreaks of the Omicron variant, but Ardern acknowledged last week that an outbreak was inevitable given the high transmissibility of the variant. It's action from the German Bundesliga up next. Stay tuned. Sports football, the German Bundesliga. Borussia Dortmund moved to within 3 points behind league leaders Bayern Munich, following a hard-fought 3-2 win at Hoffenheim on Saturday. Doniel Marlin provided the first of a hat-trick of assists on 6 minutes as Erling Haaland opened the scoring to make it 1-0 before Andrej Kramaric equalized in the first stoppage time with a record-extending 100th goal for the club to make it 1-1. Marco Reus, however, restored Dortmund's lead on 58th minutes to make it 2-1 before they went 3-1 up 8 minutes later thanks to an own goal by David Raum. Jorginho Rutter cut the deficit in half with 13 minutes left to set up a nervy finish, but Dortmund, however, held on for an important victory. Freiburg moved up to 5th place in the German Bundesliga standings on Saturday with a comfortable 2-0 win over relegation strugglers Stuttgart. Stuttgart's Hiroki Ito was credited with the opening goal on 37 minutes after Nicholas Hoffler's powerful strike took a huge deflection off the Japanese defender before Kevin Schade third goal of the season then sealed the 2-0 win. In an effort to lure children away from video games, a Russian pensioner has built a ski complex so that children can enjoy learning the winter sport. The ski track is only 300 meters high and 50 meters long, but has become a popular local attraction, especially among children. Let's take a look as we wrap up Nightline this time around. With that, I'm Raymond Goh. Thank you for your company and stay safe.